Welcome to Roo Sports. In this video, we're going to go over the most effective returns in pickleball. So even though there are a variety of different serves that we can face when we play, by the end of this video, you're going to be confident and comfortable hitting a return against any serve, any opponent, in any situation. There's a couple things that we need to keep in mind every time we hit a return, and we're going to make sure that we go over them nice and efficiently in this video so that we have less listening and more pickling. So what do we mean by an effective return? So a return is obviously the shot that we hit after our opponent serves the ball. So the ball comes over the net for the first time. It's our opportunity to let the ball bounce, because we have to, and to hit it back in a spot on the court that sets ourselves and our partner up for an effective fourth shot. So how do we hold the paddle? We hold it like a hammer. It's going to be another video specifically explaining this as well, but we hold the paddle like a hammer, and we're going to hit the ball like so. So when we return the ball, we're going to look for returning the ball deep. So the reason why we want to hit it deep is in pickleball specifically, is our opponent actually has to let the ball bounce. So because they have to let the ball bounce, they can't serve and volley like tennis. So if they have to let the ball bounce, if we can start them out as far back on their own court as we can, it will stop them from having options for their third shot. So the third shot in pickleball, so one being the serve, second being your return, that third shot that they're going to hit is the hardest shot in pickleball. Why? Because after a good return, if you're playing doubles, you have two of you standing up at the net now, making the court feel as small as humanly possible. That's what the goal of the return is, to make that third shot as hard as possible for your opponents. So because they have to let it bounce, we're going to look for it deep in the court. So our first goal is to hit it deep. We don't actually have to hit it with a ton of pace. In fact, the second goal is to arrive at the kitchen line at the same time that the opponent is starting their shot. So that kitchen line, again, is that line that's 7 feet from the net on your side of it. This is our goal. This is where we want to get to, because again, it makes the court feel very small and we're as offensive as possible in this position. So when we hit a return nice and deep, we can hit it with enough pace to put pressure on the opponent, but not so much that we can't get to the net in time. So if we have a problem, and we've played pickleball before, we have a problem that we're getting past, or our opponents seem to really hit really good third shots, you might want to hit your return a little bit slower. For one, the third shot can return your own pace. So if you beat this thing thinking you're playing tennis, they might use your own pace back at you. You might be halfway to the kitchen line and be in trouble, because now for them, the court is a lot bigger, it's a lot more open, and they have a lot more opportunities to hit it into different spots. If you were hit the return nice and soft, again, using the fact that they have to let it bounce, there are no rules on how long it takes to get there. If we hit it deep, we can kind of lob it, we can use topspin, we can use slice. We're gonna have separate videos on how to hit each of these, hitting an effective lob, hitting an effective topspin, and a slice. But the latter two are the ones that we're gonna employ the most when we play pickleball for our returns. We're hitting a nice deep topspin, which is where we're going to basically lay the paddle back and brush over the ball slightly. For us tennis players, we don't have strings on the pickleball paddle, and the ball, which I've already hit off camera, it's plastic. So there's not a ton of interaction between the face of the paddle and the ball, so we can't get as much topspin as we might be used to in tennis, but we still can get a good bit. So we can use this topspin to make it harder for our opponent to hit this next shot, especially when the shot beforehand, we hit a slice. And that is when we come from high to low, carving down into the ball, making it have backspin, and then the ball consequently doesn't bounce as high for our opponent. So if they're getting balls of varying speed, all of which you're following into the kitchen line, at a depth that's keeping them back, sliced one time, topspin the next time, harder, slower, to their backhand, to their forehand, these are all tricks that we can employ when we hit in a return. But the thing that is always constant are those two main goals. Hit it deep, to make them hit the furthest possible shot and take as many opportunities away as we can. And then second, arrive at that kitchen line right as your opponent is hitting the ball. Again, this is like a goalie in soccer or hockey. You're making the goal, you're making the court behind you feel as small as possible for your opponents. So you'll find when you do this is you don't need to go for quite as much on your returns. You don't need to just paint the lines here. We can afford to be a little bit less risky and put the pressure on our opponent to make a good shot. If we hit it deep to their backhand, they're going to have typically the hardest possible time doing this. So backhand, again, is the non-dominant side. So if I'm right-handed, this is my forehand, my backhand is on this side. So typically we don't have as many options offensively from our backhand, meaning someone can do a third shot off of your return with a drive with their forehand, and then maybe a dink if they have to. But a backhand, you're not going to see a ton of drives off the backhand. You're going to see a lot of just softer thirds. And so it's your job and your ability to assess your opponent and how strong their third shots are to find which returns you want to hit. So I know we said we're going to go over the most effective return in pickleball, and that's the return that your opponent does not like. Now that's typically deep to the backhand. This is where we should start every match. You should test someone's deep return to their backhand. And if that keeps working, never change a winning game. Keep doing it. If they start to catch on to it for some reason, we can start to hit it to the forehand. We can hit it harder, softer. We can hit it with more topspin. We can hit it with more slice. But just a deep return to the backhand is really all that we need. And that's what we need to focus on in the beginning. So consistency on a return is so important, because if we miss 11 returns between us and our partner, we lose. There's not a single shot in pickleball that we can't miss 11. You can miss as many serves as you want, as long as you're closing the points otherwise. You can miss any other dinks, drives, lobs, overheads, anything. You miss 11 returns and you lose the game. At best, if it's in a tournament to 15, you get 15 of them. But the returns are very important to stay consistent, which is why the main goals are hit it deep, keep it consistent, and find a spot that your opponent doesn't like. Try deep to the backhand, try it consistently, and see what happens. So thanks again for tuning into Roo Sports and hopping on in with us. If you enjoyed any of the paddles that you saw in this video, please go to roosports.com and consider purchasing if you find something that you like. These are professional quality paddles at a wallet-friendly price. If you have any questions about your retirement account, I happen to be a full-time financial advisor with Edward Jones, and I'll be happy to give you a free second opinion on your investments as well. That way you're not worried about your portfolio and you're just out there playing pickleball all day. So whether you're saving for retirement or you've been blessed with the ability to be retired now, and give my office a call and we'd be happy to take care of you.